Peter, hi.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thanks for your visit, thanks for your time.
Of course.
And I will ask first question about the economical issues, because always in Ukraine we see the problems in different humanitarian spheres between our countries. However, economical sphere is very important. And today I know that you had some kind of meeting with our foreign minister, and actually it was a first sitting of so-called joint intergovernmental Commission on Economical Cooperation, first sitting during 7 years. I can't understand why we had such kind of long pause, and what is the results? What are the perspectives of economic relations between our countries?
Look, we definitely have our political debates, mainly on issues regarding our national community living on the territory of Ukraine in Transcarpathia. And we have to keep those debates in a civilized path. And we have to make sure that other areas of cooperation are not harmed by these debates. So economy is definitely the area where we can build cooperation for mutual benefits, and where we can build common success stories based on which it will be much easier to resolve those sensitive issues as well, which we have referred to. So Hungarian Exim Bank has allocated $62 million of credit line to finance Hungarian, Ukrainian business-to-business cooperation. So if companies would like to make any kind of joint venture, for example, would like to run for tenders on third markets, or just want to make a simple export-import transaction, this $62 million credit line is there for their disposal. We have offered a $50 million Thai aid credit for Ukraine to carry out infrastructural developments, road constructions on the territory of Transcarpathia, and Hungarian companies are going to continue to contribute to the success of the national economy in Ukraine. OTP, which is the biggest Hungarian bank, is number 9 currently in Ukraine, but number 2 among the non-state-owned banks when it comes to financing the corporate sector of Ukraine. The biggest pharmaceutical company, Richter, has been here for 25 years, and they are very active on the pharmaceutical and medical market. And there are some other Hungarian companies as well contributing here on the field of construction, IT, or even agriculture and food processing. And on the other hand, we agreed on opening additional border crossing point in order to make it possible for people living on both sides of the border and businesses operating on both sides of the border to cooperate in a more effective manner, less time to be consumed, and to find a direct way to each other. So I think that from economic perspective, there are a lot of unused chances and a lot of unused opportunities. With the credit lines, with the financial assistance allocated, we can I think, get the mutual benefit out of this. And we are ready to continue our economic development program in Transcarpathia, based on which we have already helped 33,000 small and medium enterprises and farmers in Transcarpathia with an amount of 14 billion HUF. And this boosted like 30 billion HUF of investments in Transcarpathia, which must be good news for both Hungary and Ukraine.
It's very, very important for us because the economical relations between the two countries, I would say two societies, two nations. It's a very important background, because I know that Viktor Orban did a lot for getting Ukraine through visa regime, for development relations between the European Union and Ukraine, but unfortunately during last years we had some problems concerning the Transcarpathian region and Transcarpathia. And my next question about the importance of this region and the Hungarians, Ukrainian Hungarians, or ethnic Hungarians who live in this region for the two countries, and what is the role of this region in the relations between two countries?
Look, I agree with my Ukrainian colleague, Minister Kuleba, who said that he would like to make Transcarpathia as a success story. I totally agree with that. I'm an ally for him in this regard. I really do believe that Transcarpathia should be considered as a source of strength, as a bridge between the two nations. We should consider Transcarpathia as a common success story of Hungarians and Ukrainians, Ukrainians and Hungarians. We have a similar success story with regards to Serbia. You know, in Vojvodina, there are hundreds of thousands of Hungarians living there. We used to have a very hostile relationship with Serbia. Now we have the best friendship ever. Serbia looks at Vojvodina and the Hungarians living in Vojvodina as a bridge to European Union, as a bridge to Hungary, as a source of strength. So I really do believe that a country which considered to be committed on its European integration efforts should consider a national community belonging to an EU member state as a source of strength. So through Transcarpathia, I think Ukraine could be much more successful on its integration efforts when it comes to the European Union.
You said very, very interesting example with Serbia. I know another good success story of cooperation in the European Union. If we try to compare these problems, I would say the example of Slovakia. Last week I spoke with the ambassador. I took an interview with the ambassador of Slovak Republic in Ukraine, and I was amazed by the information that in Slovakia there are nearly 500,000 of ethnic Hungarians.
Yeah, a little bit more, yeah.
Who are fully integrated in the society, in humanitarian sphere, in political sphere, and they don't have any kind of problems. So what Ukraine should do if we want to success such kind of good example integration of Ukrainian Hungarians in our society?
Look, we used to have a very hostile relationship with Slovakia. Imagine that there were times back in 2008-9 when the Hungarian president was not allowed to cross the border between Hungary and Slovakia. So that was terrible, a really terrible relationship. Interestingly enough, that took place when socialist governments were in office in both sides. Now, since 2010, this relationship was transformed into friendship. And we can say now that bilateral relationship between Slovakia and Hungary has never been as good as it is currently. Of course, with this, I don't say that we could not improve that further, but it has never been as good as now. Now, what was the secret of the success? That we decided to build success stories on practical spheres of life. We built bridges on the Danube and on the Ipoj, which is Ipel in Slovakian. We interconnected our gas networks. We have been interconnecting our high voltage electricity grid systems. We decided to enhance the cooperation on cross-border issues. We established new border crossing points. So very practical issues, which basically laid down the foundation of trust and respect, based on which, sensitive issues can be, talked through, and with the hope of solution. So I think that if we are able to build practical successes with Ukraine, we can walk along the same path. Now the question is whether we have sensitive issues with Slovakia or minority issues. Yes, of course, but I mean, who doesn't have such kind of sensitive issues? The question is always whether they overshadow the whole relationship or not. And in case of Slovakia, since they made gestures like they resolved the financing of the small schools where Hungarians are being enrolled. They give the right to Hungarians to study their native tongue. They give the right to Hungarians to speak their native tongue in jurisdiction. They started to write the names of the Hungarian settlements to the railway stations. So, I mean, for us Hungarians, maybe it's not understood very well, maybe it's not explained very well, but we Hungarians are extremely sensitive on our language. Why? Because it's unique. So we don't belong to the Slavic family of languages, we don't belong to the German family of language, no Latin, nothing. We are really unique. No one speaks our language, no one understands our language. So that's why when Hungarians feel that their right to use their mother tongue is being endangered, it equals as if our identity would be endangered. And this is something that should be understood. So when we ask the Ukrainian government to give the chance to the ethnic Hungarians living in the territory of Transcarpathia to continue to study on their native tongue, and parallelly to that, increase the standards of teaching Ukrainian language to them as a second language, it's not because we would be a revisionist, it's not because we would be either chauvinist or whatever. This is because this is how we are Hungarians. And if we feel comfortable with that, we can be very, very effective and very useful citizens of Ukraine as well, because these people whom we are speaking about, ethnic Hungarians in Transcarpathia, they are loyal citizens to Ukraine.
Yeah, yeah. You touched very sensitive questions, about the language policy, because I was very critical to our government during the last 6 years because of the Russian language. And unfortunately, we have now these problems with Hungarian language. And if you speak about this issue, what would be with this NATO-Ukraine Commission and language laws?
Yeah. Look, I'm fed up with political correctness and hypocrisy, and I'm an absolute fan of honest and direct speech. So that's why I have told my Ukrainian colleagues very bluntly that as soon as the Hungarians in Transcarpathia get back their rights, which were violated regarding schools, regarding language of education, and so on and so forth, we immediately lift the veto on convening the NATO-Ukraine Commission meeting on ministerial level. But this is a position which is not liked by our allies either. I mean, Americans and others reach out to us, politely speaking, reach out to us on a very, let's say, continuous basis to get rid of this position. But the thing is that when this law on education, which creates a lot of problems, was put on the agenda of the Rada, it was like 2015-16. Yeah. I have asked my that time colleague, Pavlo Klimkin, that Pavlo, please, don't do that. And they said, no. And he said, no, you can be sure, you don't have to be worried, this is not going to take place. Okay. We were the loudest supporters of the visa-free regime for Ukraine in the European Union, and we were the loudest supporters of the entry into force of the EU-Ukraine Association Agreement. Now, a couple days after they both lied, this law was passed in the Ukrainian Rada. So, this was like stabbing in the back. So that's how you can understand why we use our position in NATO, because once we supported you in another integration, we were basically, traited. And this is something that we don't want to go through again. So, but as soon as this issue is resolved, we of course immediately leave the veto. That's not a question. I told the Secretary General of NATO, I told the Americans, I told everybody, and I told the Ukrainian government as well. So, I don't hide anything. We don't hide anything. We speak very directly and honestly in this regard.
Thanks for this answer. And I have a last question. I know that you have a general vision of what is going on enrolled in the European Union and Europe, and we actually see the new reality of world order, maybe, of European system. So, what will be, for example, how you see the future of Central Eastern Europe in connection with our country? What is the role of Ukraine in this new, maybe new reality, political reality, and geopolitical regional reality?
Look, I see Central Europe strengthening very much, politically and economically speaking. Right before the crisis, the average growth rate of the Central European countries was more than double compared to the European average, EU average, Politically speaking, governments carry out very rational policies here. In Central Europe, when it comes to economy, low taxation, when it comes to migration, stopping illegal migration, when it comes to security. So governments are rational, reasonable, common sense based, and that counts a lot. So this led to strengthening the region. And this goes beyond political borders. If you look at the Visegrad countries, for example, 4 governments, 4 ruling parties, 4 totally different European party families, and still we are the closest allies to each other.
Different currency.
Sorry?
Even in different currency, because in Slovakia.
Absolutely. So this is 4 different currencies. Yeah. So basically, this shows that if we speak let's say on united voice. If we speak unanimously, we can reach much more compared to as if we, spoke in let's say in a divided manner. And we have to understand, we are all living in Central Europe. And we know very well that whenever there is a conflict between East and West, we always lose, right? Whenever conflicts took place, for whatever reason, with whatever stakeholders, we Central Europeans were always left alone. And always lost. So that's why we are interested in a more pragmatic East to West cooperation. And when we speak about that, we don't say this because we would be spies of either of them or agents of either of them. We say because this is our national interest. So that's why I think Central Europe will have a much stronger role in the future. National responses to COVID have worked out. Mm-hmm. Economic measures should be successful, and then this region will be much more significant.
Thanks for your time. I think that the improvement of relations between two countries, this is just a question of time. It depends on many issues, but I think it's inevitable, and it will be.
Look, I have some good hopes because I have worked together with the former administration as well, and I've been working together with this one. So I know the difference, and I see the hope now. So, when you feel the goodwill, even if it doesn't work out from one moment to the other, at least you have the hope that something's going to change.
Thanks for your time. Thanks for your interview.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it as well.